With the last major piece of legislation behind them, lawmakers appear to be on the fast track toward ending this year's legislative session. Unlike previous years, passage of a budget to fund state government moved through both chambers fairly quickly, despite objections from Democrats and some Republicans who say the spending plan contains missed opportunities and misplaced priorities.
Seeing no debate, without objection, that'll be the order. Fourth reading of the bill.
The House was the first stop this year for the general appropriations bill, the plan to fund state government in the upcoming fiscal year. Representative Scott Martin, chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, presented the budget bill on the floor of the House. Martin admitted the plan would not please everyone, but believed it accomplished its primary objectives.
We have met the principles and priorities that we laid out on both sides of the aisle.
The $7.1 billion budget increases spending by nearly $270 million over current levels, with the biggest growth in education, health care, and human services. It also includes $60 million to begin fixing the crumbling Capitol and another $5 million for remodeling House and Senate offices. House Minority Leader Scott Inman argued the agreement puts too much emphasis on renovations and repairs while ignoring other critical needs.
Can you justify to me, to my constituents, to my teachers, to my students, why we believe that in this budget, buildings are just as important, and maybe, if I do the math right, depending upon how much that $5 million is coming out of LSB for office space, actually more important in terms of an increase than our common educations and our schools?
Martin countered by pointing out common education already receives the lion's share of available revenue.
You just take the $91 million that we have for common education. That makes up 43% of our entire growth revenue that we have. If you throw on higher ed, career tech, takes up 60% of our growth revenue, that $212 million that we had to start off with.
The budget includes no new money for the Department of Corrections, despite a growing prison population and a decline in the number of prison workers. Representative Chuck Hoskin questioned why those concerns weren't addressed, even though a House committee earlier approved a bill funding raises for prison workers and state troopers.
With the overwhelming majority of the House voting in support of corrections officers and state troopers, and we still couldn't get it done. Can you help me out? What happened there?
Even with the best of intentions, the best attempt possible, sometimes not everything makes it all the way through the process.
Representative Sean Roberts was among 14 Republicans who voted against the measure, saying he couldn't support an agreement that didn't increase pay for prison workers.
There are just a few flaws that we can't overlook. Spending $5 million to fix offices downstairs, upgrading the Capitol down there, and not being able to give corrections or troopers a raise.
Despite those objections, the budget bill passed by a margin of 59 to 40, but not without controversy. Democrats claimed a vote was cast on behalf of a lawmaker who had left the building. Representative Richard Morissette pointed out voting for a member who is not in the chamber is a violation of House rules.
If we don't follow the rules, if someone can vote for someone who's absent, what does that say for the rest of us if we permit that to happen?
Democrats moved to recall the bill for another vote, but the motion was tabled, clearing the way for the Senate to take up the measure. Senate Appropriations Chairman Clark Jolly spent more than an hour answering questions about the measure and acknowledged there were parts of it even he didn't like.
But what we have today is a budget. And if there's one thing that has been consistent through years of Democratic rule over the Senate as well as Republican leadership, you can criticize the budget in just about any number of ways.
Some of the criticism came from Republicans who expressed concern that a $30 million appropriation to pay for repairs to state-owned buildings could be diverted to finish construction of the American Indian Cultural Center and Museum. Jolly said he would be shocked if one dime was used for that purpose.
There's a considerable amount of money that needs to be spent on dilapidated buildings in this state. And for us to divert those monies when there are these other pressing needs, I think would be irresponsible.
Other objections focused on the $5 million appropriation to renovate legislative offices.
I found out about a week ago through my executive assistant, my office is going to be remodeled with money that comes out of this state budget. I just want to go on record to say, if you didn't already know, I didn't ask for it. I don't want my office remodeled.
Senator Charles Wyrick said he would rather see those dollars spent on education. Democrats also argued money to fix the Capitol would come at the expense of critical state services, but Jolly maintained delays have already forced the cost of repairs higher.
We could absolutely neglect further this Capitol. We could absolutely not put that money to fixing the exterior. We can continue to allow for the building literally to have scaffolding outside because it's falling down, because we would rather pay for somebody to be able to have assistance than to make sure that the people's house is taken care of.
In the end, the Senate voted 28-20 for the bill, with 8 Republicans joining the Senate's 12 Democrats in opposing it. Passage of the spending blueprint clears the last major hurdle to final adjournment, which could happen within the next few days.